Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. We have a big poll to discuss on the show today out from Abacus Data. Mark Carney and his Liberal government have fallen really hard in the polls because of their series of really bad moves in government over the summer, concluding with the Air Canada fiasco. Now, this most recent poll was conducted on August 20th, so this is not taking into account Mark Carney's most recent flip-flop on a trade deal with the United States. We may actually start seeing the Liberals' numbers slip harder now that he has betrayed the elbows up crowd yet again. But I want to take you guys through what the numbers were back on Abacus's last poll on August 7th and what they are now on August 20th. Now, remember on August 7th, even then, the Liberals were starting to trend down in their popularity. We could see the honeymoon ending. I was predicting maybe September, October, like late September, mid October. We are going to finally see the artificial goodwill wear off, and now we are going to see more realistic numbers out for the Liberals and for Mark Carney. His disapproval rating would be going up a couple of points per month. His approval rating would be falling at the same rate. But now we are seeing a big drop off because of just glaringly stupid things they've been doing recently. Again, Air Canada, we had the Palestinian thing that had occurred. There's just been a lot of unforced errors that even if you're a Liberal supporter, if you were a more reluctant one in the last election, you're probably heading to the door right now. But before we get into it, I just want to remind you guys, hey, if you like the show, if you like these whiteboard videos and the breakdown of the polls, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you are not yet a subscriber. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by mid-December of this year, and leave a comment on what you think about the current political situation in Canada. But now let's time travel back not very far to August 7th. And I think the fact that things have fallen this hard, this quickly, is quite a thing. And just letting you know, this poll actually has the Conservatives up, the August 20th one, and they were not up back on August 7th. But back on August 7th, we had the Liberals at 43%. We had the Conservative Party with Pierre Poilievre at 40%, which isn't bad for them. And then the NDP, who I will represent as green here, were at 8%. And I'll just use the same color for the bloc. And the bloc was at 6. These are kind of also ran parties, but it does have an effect, especially the Bloc Québécois, when it comes to how many seats the Liberals end up getting in Quebec. Actually, let's see if I can make that a little bit thicker for you guys, seeing me fix my mistakes on the fly here. 8, 6, not sure how much that actually helped. But now let's leap forth and come now to August 20th. Now, where are the parties right now as of August 20th? Well, let's fill in the Conservatives first and then the rest of the parties. The Conservatives have only risen by 1 point. It makes sense right now. They were the party that just lost the last election. If people are moving away from the Liberals, they may just be becoming undecided at the moment. But right now, the Conservatives are holding strong, and I think it is in no small part because of how Pierre Poilievre has been actually moving to the right on policies where the Canadian public is to the right on them, like on immigration, like on taxes. He's been doing a really good job firming up his positions on these issues that I think that the party went too soft on during the general election. And it's not that he started losing voters or he started alienating them and they thought he was a phony. It's just that your motivation to show up and vote went down a little bit. So I think the Conservative turnout suffered. In this poll, the NDP is at 7 and the Bloc Québécois is also at 7. I actually think that what we are going to see here, this may actually be a bit of a mispoll for the NDP. I see them in the next few months probably rising because as the Air Canada fallout kind of takes shape or takes a bit more hold on the public, because even on August 20th, we hadn't really felt the full effects of people kind of mulling over the news of how the Liberals had mishandled that situation in their minds. And so I think that we are going to see the NDP starting to punch above 10% in the polls at some point in before the year runs out. But now this is where we get to the Liberal Party. So the Liberal Party in the last poll that Abacus did on August 7th was 43%. They are now 39%. Now, I probably don't have to tell you that this is not great for the Liberals. They have fallen a full 4 points in just in just 13 days. In just 13 days, and this isn't even accounting for the the current tariff issue, where he's basically saying, actually, we have a great deal with the Americans, and we'll drop a bunch of their tariffs. Please, Trump, please, just sign a deal with us, reduce the tariffs. I really need a win before the fall. This is happening. This drop of 4% is happening before that actually broke, because that happened on the 20th, and this poll came out, was finalized on the 20th, so would have not picked up any of this at all. The Conservatives obviously have gone up by 1 point from 13 days ago, and with the also ran parties, I would say they're effectively at an even. Bloc goes up by 1, NDP goes up down by 1. Basically, the other in the category is holding firm. The main area where the Liberals are hurting is that they're hurting when it comes to those voters who are on the margins. Those people who voted for the Liberals possibly in this last general election, but now with the actions of Mark Carney, the inability to deliver a budget, the high deficits, the Palestinian terror state recognition, Air Canada situation, and now the tariff flip-flopping, if you are voting for him because you want someone tough on Trump, well, it didn't really work out. It didn't really happen. And it was kind of, you maybe are kind of foolish to assume that we are going to be tough on the Americans, because why would we be? It actually is true that they're our best trading partner. But if you were following Mark Carney during the election, that was not his attitude at all. It was elbows up. We're going to fight back. And I've seen this guy now on social media posting. Maybe I'll show you the guys this on screen a little bit later, or we'll do it now before I erase the board and move on to a different poll. But you have these people acting like you're stupid if you thought that he was going to actually be elbows up. All of his rhetoric during the campaign had nothing to do with this. Here is this guy, Mike Gerald Gibbs. Of course, pride flag, Ukraine flag, he, him. I even support Ukraine, but I always find it annoying when these progressives pretend that they care. When they didn't care when Russia invaded Ukraine back in 2014, they only care now because it's the thing. But Mike Gerald Gibbs says no one was expecting Carney to keep tariffs on the U.S. That was always a temporary measure. We punched back and made our point. We need to buy time for Canadian workers while we build a new economy based on new trade partners. Carney is not retreating. He's buying us time. It's like, okay, you got to be seriously dull to think that that Carney wasn't actually putting tariffs on to pressure the Americans into maybe breaking. He was just doing this to give them a little taste of his ultimate power. And then he was going to pull back because apparently we need to trade with other countries. But reducing the tariffs, in effect, would mean that we would start trading with the Americans more again, which is not even a bad thing. But all these people are having to bend themselves into pretzels, pretending like Carney's actually being intellectually consistent here. And you could say, well, see, people like Mike Gerald Gibbs are out there who are just going to keep making excuses for the Liberals. Yes, but that is about the 20%, 23% of Liberals who are still going to vote Liberal even when Justin Trudeau was still the Prime Minister and leading the party back in December. The thing is that politics is done along the margins. Right now, this poll, I want to quickly bring up what Sharia Teest had said. I'm not going to show him on screen right now, but the amount of seats that he currently gives to the Conservatives based on his own model, this right now, this margin of 3% lead or just a 2% lead for the Conservatives, this would actually result in 172 seats for the Conservatives, and only, let me check again, it would only be 135 seats or 36 seats for the NDP. That's obviously, or for the Liberals, that's obviously not very good. So the Conservatives only have to beat the Liberals, in theory, by 2 points in the national popular vote, not just to win the most seats, but to get a majority government, a bare majority, but it is still a majority. And so this is where I would tell to Pierre Poilievre, just stick to your guns, actually toughen on policy, because you're not going to win by finding new voters. The Conservatives actually have a very robust voter coalition right now. The problem is, how are we going to make sure that because right now in the last election, we had 68.5% turnout. So 68% of the general public decided to show up and vote. But of conservative supporters, of the demographics that conservatives do really well with, I assume they brought out probably 3/4 of them, 75% of religious Christians probably showed up for the conservatives who, typically vote. But what you want, the gun owners, the farmers, whatnot, just families who don't like who like parental rights and don't like things like soji or gender theory. You want those people coming out at 85%, at 82%. That is when you're going from struggling to beat the Liberals in the GTA and falling only 8,000 votes short, actually, within the closest ridings of getting the minority government, to not just winning the minority, but getting the majority, because that's going to get you an extra 200, 300,000 voters if you get those sorts of turnout numbers. But I just want to quickly erase this board now, and I want to come back with some of the other interesting points that were in this Abacus data poll. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. I've actually had to delete this video and re-record this section because somehow when I had originally hit pause to erase the board and then come back and unpause, the microphone screwed up and started making me sound like I had consumed an entire tank load of helium. So for any of you who saw that, hopefully it was good for a laugh, but now I want to do this the right way. So in this part of the Abacus data poll, they ask people whether or not they want to see a change in government. And I'm going to bring up this result on screen. It's hard to see, but you can just kind of see the changing lines over time. The bottom red line is those who want to see a Liberal government reelected. The top green line are those who definitely want to see a change in government and they think there are much better parties out there. And the more mild green line in the middle are people who would like to see change, but they don't know if there is a better option out there. Now, I want to start writing down on the board here for you guys what some of the sort of indicators are that we are exiting a Liberal honeymoon, that a lot of people put some hope into them, but now marginally people are starting to fall off, and maybe especially a lot of conservative Liberal switch voters are saying, okay, well, Carney's not really the guy I expected him to be, so I'm not sure if I really want these people in office anymore. Back in midsummer, to give you an impression, the amount of people who thought we definitely needed a change, who I will indicate in blue, was 39%. So this is around June time. At the same time, the amount of people who want a Liberal government definitely reelected was 35%. Now, yeah, that isn't the 39% they have now, or at the time, I think they were at like 43 in the polls or 44. It's always going to lag a bit. This number is like the hardcore Liberal base. This is people who will basically be absolutely voting Liberal no matter what. And then when we get down to the people who want to see a change in government, but they don't know if there's a better option, at that time, it was about 26%. This doesn't mean that they won't vote conservative or that they won't vote Liberal. They may still end up voting Liberal, not wanting change, but thinking that there isn't any good options out there. They may hold their nose and vote Liberal. They may hold their nose and vote NDP. They may hold their nose and vote conservative. They're kind of wild card voters. We don't know where they're going. But this was around July, the very beginning of July. Now, what we have on August 20th is we now have 42% of people wanting change and thinking there are much better options out there. Like there's a party in their minds they definitely will vote for instead of the Liberals. The Liberals, wanting the Liberals reelected, the hardcore base of the Liberal Party, like their national polling, has dropped down to 31%, with the amount of people who think that they want a change in government, but they're not sure if there are better options, has just gone up by 1 point. But the general shift here has been significant. The people who want somewhat of a change is up 1. We have now the Liberals down by 4. And the wanting change and definitely thinking there are better options available right now, which benefits conservatives a lot, is up 3 points. So quite a bit of swing has taken place here. Great news for the conservatives, not so great for the Liberals, as their hardcore base is dropping significantly. And remember, this was done before people were even able to react to the trade flip-flop from Mark Carney. This poll was conducted the day before or was finalized the day of Carney's flip-flop, but nobody would have been thinking about it when they were taking the poll that day. I don't even think anyone would have been asked the poll question even after the press conference of Mark Carney. And even then, this poll, usually pollsters collect their data over several days. I was actually just recording. It was actually after the first time I finished this video, and now I'm having to re-record the section. But in the first, after I finished the video the first time and went to go do the Great Canadian Bagel cast with my friend Chris, he pointed out that this Abacus poll was actually being conducted before the Air Canada fiasco had started. It was the poll started when the Air Canada thing first kicked off, but it hadn't picked up the people who were mad at the Liberals that occurred halfway through the entire fiasco when they ordered people back to work. So this may actually be understating the damage it's done to the Liberal brand. But now I want to go to one more poll result from this poll, because I think it also indicates that the shifting priorities of Canadians are also going to be undermining the Liberal Party. So I'm just going to clean up the board and then come back and finish up, and hopefully I don't sound like a car alarm like I did in the previous video. So yeah, bear with me, guys. And we're back. In this section, I want to talk about the top issues for Canadians right now. I want to compare the current poll, which is, again, collected on August 20th or finalized on August 20th, and I want to compare that to the one that was conducted on June 29th. Because this is where the Liberals may be having some trouble with some of the issues and how people are shifting their priorities. Donald Trump was obviously a top issue in the last federal election. It drove a lot of people to vote Liberal, in part because I don't think the Conservatives did a good enough job with dealing with the issue of Donald Trump. I don't think they needed to go anti-Trump. I think they just need to do better on pointing out that the Liberals are actually hurting our economy so badly, it's going to let Trump the Americans siphon off a lot of our economic activity down south. Now, back in June 29th, and this is still not at its height. It was obviously at its height during the election. But back in June, 46% of people rated Donald Trump as in their top 3 issues that they vote along the lines of. That is staggeringly high for something that frankly doesn't matter all that much. Now, if I jump over to now, August 20th, only 38% of people rate Donald Trump within their top 3 issues. And that's top 3. That's not top issues. That's top 3. And to show you that this isn't just how polls shift over time, when you go to the economy, actually, I'm going to swap this out with cost of living. They also have an economy section, but economy, cost of living, the economy went from 59, or the cost of living went from 59% back in late June, and now it's at 60. So it hasn't shifted at all. The actual economy was technically went from around 38 to 36, but cost of living is the economy at the end of the day for most people, but you can forgive me for my mistake there. But then let's go down to migration or immigration. I just did this because it sticks on the board a little bit easier. Back on June 29th, 20% of people rated immigration as a top issue for them. And now on August 20th, we have 25% of people rating that as a top issue. There should be no surprise as to why Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives have hardened their stance on immigration. It's because it actually is becoming a top-of-mind issue, whereas the issue of Donald Trump and the Americans has been falling significantly. That is an 8% drop over time. And in not that long, this isn't how many people care about it over a year, and 8% would be significant over a year. This is just from the very end of June to nearing the end of August. Just a couple months later, and people really do not care all that much about Donald Trump compared to when they to the election and to a couple of months ago. And so why this is bad for the Liberals is, if I show you the top issues on the screen right now, you would be kind of hard pressed to find areas where the Liberals would be on top. Rising cost of living, that actually is going to be more of a conservative issue, because it affects younger people as well as voters living on fixed incomes, like at an older age. And so, though that is going to be favoring the Conservatives overall, Donald Trump and his administration is a liberal leaning issue. And then economy, that's always going to be conservative. Housing, it's going to be conservative. Healthcare, that one's a little bit more of a mixed bag. But let's say the liberals have the edge on healthcare. They still have to share that issue with the NDP, who typically have all the nurses' unions endorsing them. And then as you go down the list when it comes to crime and public safety and unemployment and whatnot, yeah, the liberals will lead on climate change, but some of these other issues, it's still mostly going towards the conservatives. So right now, if the liberals lose the white whale that is Donald Trump as an issue in Canadian politics, they don't have anything readily available to replace it with unless they can boost their credibility on the economy. But again, that is still a conservative leaning issue, and the conservatives have a grab bag of other issues to run the next campaign on. But that should be it for this video, guys. I probably will do another follow-up with this Abacus data poll. Again, I apologize for somehow StreamYard's humiliating me by raising the pitch of my voice and making me sound like a small flute halfway through my original upload. It was so strange. It wasn't like I made an editing mistake. All I do with these videos is hit play, hit stop recording. I trim the first 2 seconds of dead air on either end, and then I upload the video. It's like a pre-recorded radio show, the style that I do it. And somehow the act of pausing the video and unpausing the video screwed up everything. So thank you for being part of the exclusive club of people who heard my very strange voice. If you saw that version of the video, do me a favor and forget that that happened. And I also just wanted to mention at the end of this video, hey, if you're in British Columbia in September, I am going to be doing a town hall with the 1BC party on September 13th in Abbotsford. I will be linking that in the description of the video below, as well as the Great Canadian Bagel podcast, which Chris should be putting out with me tomorrow morning. Usually he uploads on Mondays. We record on Sundays and he uploads on Mondays. We just did a small podcast talking about polls and the current position that Mark Carney and the Liberals are in. But with that being said, I will see you guys later.